I can always cut it, so it's fine. Is it in the way?
You just want to know about Whittington Park was named for my father, your great-grandfather. He was like a road overseer or a road foreman for all of the territory roads that were in the county roads that were in the district of Kau back in the late 2030s up to 1946. So he did a lot of things for the county. During the war years from 1942 to 1944, he was also the deputy sheriff. And he also had a lot of other things that he did, community works. He had the Kau baseball team, which won the Island Championship back in the 30s. And he was just a person that was well known. So when they were thinking of making this a park, the most prominent person they could think of was my father. And at that time was the chairman of the board of the supervisors at that time at the county of Hawaii was James Kealoha. And he being both of the same political party, he chose my dad's name to be named the park after that, because we owned the land all the way up the hill. So that's the name. That's where. Well, the school I attended was WWII Elementary and Intermediate School. Started there in 1936 as a kindergarten. Kindergarten didn't last, so we actually started first grade because they was an experiment. They didn't have kindergarten after that. And so I went to WWII Elementary for up to the 7th grade, through the 7th grade. And during that period of time, I had my aunt, my sister, and my mother teach me. You want that experience? Be my guest. Oh, God, there's so many different types of games. Well, when I grew up in above Waihino in the homesteads, and I was the only child, because all my brothers and sisters were much older than I. And what I did mostly was either hiking with my dog and cat, or I had a single-shot .22 rifle, which I would shoot mongoose with. That was my pleasure. Or I would take a baseball, which my dad gave me, and I would throw it at the steps thinking I was the greatest baseball pitcher in the world. So that was mostly what I did as far as play is concerned. Then my father built me a pair of stilts, which I used to walk around with. So that's my. Then I moved to Honoapo in 1941 when my father and mother sold the place up in Waihino, and mostly was in the beach here, swimming, going fishing, spearing fish, or fishing across in our property across the street from the pond. Name it. Well, we didn't have electricity up at our home. Above Waihino, we had a kerosene stove, a kerosene refrigerator, and kerosene lights. So my job when I was about 6 or 7 years old enough to be able to carry, was to fill up the kerosene lamps in all the rooms every week. And then when I got to about 8 or 9 years old, I was given the job of filling up the stove where we put the kerosene to run the stove, and also the refrigerator. That was part of it. But when it came time, I fed the chickens and I fed the ducks. And when my mother decided when she wanted to go and get lauhala, I went with her, and my job was to wash it, cut it, and strip it, and wrap it. And if you ever, none of you, we don't have a permission to go into the home in Honoapo, but there's a triple layer lauhala mat in the living room, which I contributed by doing all of the lauhala. So I was very busy. In fact, well, 1941 when it started, I was up about 6 o'clock in the morning, and our neighbor Fred and I were down below where we lived, and we were just playing, fooling around, doing things. And one of my brother-in-laws, who was living with us at that time, who was also the Army Air Force at Marshfield, which is located in South Point, came flying down the hill and saying, "Arthur, get back up to the hill. We're at war." I said, "War?" "Yeah, Japan just bombed Pearl Harbor." So I ran back up there, and my father told me to go down to where, see where it is, right over there across, where they have the tree. Now there used to be all the tanks for Standard Oil, Chevron gas as we know it now. There were 3 tanks there, where the Matson ships used to come in and fill them up about every 3 months. And they had a guy that was in charge of that. I ran down here because he was down here, and I told him to shut it down. We were at war. And then, not that night, but the following night, at about 9 o'clock, we heard this rumbling in our yard. It's about awful. And it turned out to be that there were 6 what's that people that did the Diamond Head artillery? I forget the name of them.
Oh, Diamond Head. Far Brucey.
No. Diamond Head, they used to have these cannons up there. They were going to protect the islands. And they had 6 of them were up there for R&R. So they grabbed the French 75, which was the cannon that they used to signify whatever they were signifying. Then they had a 37 millimeter cannon. They grabbed all the ammunition and that, got a truck and hauled it down to our front yard. They came pounding on my door, our door. My father grabbed his rifle and was about to shoot. And they're like, "Yes, no, it's we're the Army." He said, "What are you guys doing here? We're taking over." So they gave us 2 days to move out, and they took over our property for 2 months. And then after they moved out, the National Guard moved in, and they were there for about 6 months. And then after that, the 27th Infantry Company E, 27th Infantry Division, was from New York. And I don't know how they ever ended up in Ka'u, but they were here for almost half a year also. And then by 1943, everybody was gone. And it was, what was so funny about that time is that I think it was January or February 1942, Mauna Loa erupts. And I mean, it erupted. And it lit up the whole area. And they were saying, "Oh, you can't turn on your electricity in order to jet." And you had to have a little bulb and then a little circle on there. That's the only light you had. The rest you had to paint your windows black and all that kind of stuff. And then we all were issued gas masks. And none of us carried a gas mask. We all put our junks inside there. Yeah, it was interesting. Then 1943, 1942, I was accepted to come in schools, boys, but the war was on. So in 1943, I reapplied and I went off to school in Honolulu. So my 8th grade year, 8th through my senior year, I spent at Contemporary School. I guess was the lack of entertainment, or places to do and things to see and things to do. Very limited. There was just towns where Waiohinu, where I was born, and my father had his office there. Na'alehu, which is a plantation town, plantation store, everything was plantation. And a movie theater, and that was about the only entertainment we had. And remember once a week we used to go to the show, unless it was something special then on maybe a Saturday night. We'd go see Shirley Temple. And I remember I was singing to Mama, good ship lollipop, it's a nice trip to the candy shop, where the bonbons play and we're landing on the chocolate bar. That was our show. As far as distance from here to Ka'u in those days, though it was about 70 miles, but it took almost 2 hours to drive. Because we couldn't go much more than 25 to 30 miles an hour. We only had a road that was maybe twice the size of this table. And you went, and if there was a car coming to you, you played chicken. Who was going to get off the road first? So, you pull way over the side, the other guy pulled way over the side, and you just squeeze by. And then you have to have your rest stops. Especially with all my sisters in the car, about every half an hour we had to stop the car. And women on the left, men on the right. When did I move to Ka'u? Well, when I went off to school and come down there, I used to come back for vacations. I didn't have any choice. I came back for Christmas, Easter at that time, and then for summer. But when I left Ka'u, when I graduated from there, I did not come back except to visit my mother every 1 week out of a year. And we didn't come back to Hawaii until 1962, when I moved to receive a job over here.
That's it.
That's me.